Welcome to
The watch. The Chinese watch. Yes.
the Chinese watch. So today I wanted to take a look at my newest acquisition. This is a watch I've been thinking about for a long time, but it took me a while to actually decide to go for it. It had been selling for about $100, which is quite reasonable. However, I was a little skeptical that it would work for me because this watch has, we're going to measure the diameter of the bezel. This watch has a 41.5 plus overall diameter, not including the crown. So that is a big watch. I don't have anything bigger than that, but it's right at the limit of what I was ready to consider based on the fact my wrist is not the beefiest in the world. So I wanted to get, wasn't sure I wanted to get it right away. Then I saw this on eBay for right around $60. And then I just had to get it. You know, I'd seen a few reviews of this watch. They were favorable. And even though it doesn't have the logo on there, this is a Corgeut. Ooh. This is a Corgeut emblem would go right there, obviously. This is a Corgeut watch, which is spelled C-O-R-G-E-U-T. Should be in the title of the video, but it's obviously a Chinese brand. It's homaging a, what is it? This is homaging a Seamaster, which was famous in another James Bond movie also. So this watch has some nice longitudinal brushing on the sides, and then it's pretty much mirror polished everywhere else, and they have done a good job. They really have their case making down to an art in China. Their movements are also, some of them are quite good. This one is a Japanese movement. It's a Seiko NH35. And this guy, when I got it, I actually looked through the glass, and there I saw some debris. So I think the person was eating their lunch while they were building this watch, and I think it was a reseller that was building it. So it may have some blemishes that I haven't picked up on yet. Please tell me what you see in the comments. Thank you, by the way. I got 174 views in 10 days on my last video. That was pretty incredible. So thank you for that. And a couple people actually hit the like button. So you're beautiful. Thank you. And maybe I'll get some comments on this one. People telling me their opinions. I like this concentric machining on the back of the case. It looks kind of like a rainbow effect, although I did evidently scratch it right here. You'll get scratches in your watches. Don't let it bother you. It's all part of their story. What other diameters and measurements can we get with this? So overall thickness is 13.6, pretty much. Oh, no, it's 13.81. It is a domed crystal, slightly domed. 13.84, so it's almost 14 millimeters thick. But it wears fairly well on this NATO strap. Little fun fact, NATO in this case is the company that invented this strap. I thought it meant like having to do with the NATO alliance, but it doesn't. The watch has a date function. It is not framed, however, and it does not have a magnifying lens. But I kind of would have liked it to have no date, possibly. Or maybe even a black date wheel with a white numeral so that it would match these other white numerals. But then if it was the 3rd, you might be confused and like just think you didn't have a date function, right? The bezel action is so-so on this one. But it's a slightly bigger bezel than a lot of watches that are in this size range. So that might have something to do with it. Sounds good. It works perfectly fine. You know, yeah, there's a ton of backplay on it. A ton and a half. Who cares? Give me a break. It's a ceramic bezel. That's worth something, I think. Oh, I went past. Let me try. It does line up well. At least I think it does. Gotta really want it. There you go. Some Chinese watches, they don't actually line up. The bezel doesn't match up with the dial. This one does. Although the little triangle at the top seems a little bit off to me. Depends how you hold it. If you hold it like this, it looks dead on. If you hold it like, if you look dead on, it looks a little bit to the right. And then you can click it up one more click and then everything else is off. This one had the option of a 0 at the top. I think that would have been harder to see if it's not lined up, if you had a 0 instead of the triangle. The movement in this watch is actually quite well timed. I just had it on the time grapher here. Let me see if I can show you. Try to get everything in view without changing my setup. Just doesn't want to fit, does it? Okay, here we go. So it is showing 0 to +2 seconds a day, showing nice straight tracks, nearly perfectly horizontal. That's pretty good. And high amplitude, 269. I don't know if it's not wound up all the way. I think it'll go to 272, but and nice low beat error. So it's doing good. Now what happens if I turn it? Let's see. Looks about the same in that position. If we go going crown down. Oh, now it's at -8 seconds a day. That's still within its tolerances. Now we got 247 degrees. So good. So this watch, like I said, I got it for around $60 on eBay. It did come from China, but it didn't. I think it came from a reseller or a small, a small concern, a small company. It wasn't a big, I don't think a big seller, a big major Chinese distributor, but I got the impression it was kind of like a mom and pop shop. But they did offer this version. They offered the version with the 0 on the bezel. They offered a diver's bezel, I think, and they also had the Corgeut, the marked dial. One neat thing about this dial, it is a sandwich dial, meaning the black is one layer and these orange indices are another layer, and they are loomed. I can't remember if the bezel is loomed. I don't think it is, but it does have a double dome sapphire crystal. It's domed on the top and it's domed on the inside. And I don't think they used any anti-reflective coating because it does tend to reflect a lot. And but overall, it's very legible. I think the hands are especially nice. They have kind of a faceted look to them. So it's not just a flat hand, and if you look at the hour hand, you can see it really good the way it catches the light. It's like the top lights up and the bottom lights up, depending on how it's oriented. It's a really nice touch. It looks great. I always love just looking down at this watch when it's on my wrist. It feels really good. It wears well for a bigger watch. And I know there's these massive, I call them hubcap watches, there's this is not the biggest watch in the world by a long shot. But for me, it's asking a lot. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I use the pass-through method, which is impossible to put on and videotape at the same time. Here we go. Piece of cake. Come on, there we go. So it sits up a little high on the wrist, takes up a lot of real estate. It kind of makes its presence known. And of course, it is a fingerprint magnet, so you're constantly wanting to wipe it off. But it's so satisfying when you do wipe it off because it's got a beautiful polish to it. So that's the Corgeut. Let's try it without any lights and see if you can see the lume. Those hands look great, but you can't really see the orange indices, can you? Well, if you get a chance to purchase one of these and you're kind of on the fence, just go ahead and get it. Don't even let it bother you, and then If you don't like it, you can sell it 3 weeks later on eBay for probably close to what you paid for it, if not more. Well, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Happy April Fool's Day. Take care.